Okay, good afternoon everybody and welcome to this afternoon's meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Board. My name is Councillor Tony Dyer and I am the chair of the board, the Overview and Scrutiny Management Board. Councillor Mark Bradshaw is the vice chair. I'm not going to ask the other councillors to introduce themselves. They can do that as and when they ask questions, but I'm sure they will all do so. First of all, and also other visitors will introduce themselves as and when we get to your item. Safety information, just to remind, I think most of the people in this room have been here plenty of times before, but just to say that if there is a fire alarm, it's the real thing. Please don't panic, just simply make your way out through the main doors, down the ramp to the right-hand side, and congregate next to the Bristol Cathedral. And then your name will be taken and you'll be marked off, and then you can go to the pub. Go back in. Okay. The other thing I'll say is, as you may have noticed, we have a different type of mic for most people. This is because of a problem with the Norma 1930s vintage. Well, they may not be 1930s vintage, but so we are using these new microphones. What I would say to members is that they are a lot more powerful than the ones you're used to. So do be aware they will pick up your heavy breathing or any other verbose comments you may make. So just be aware of that. So remember to turn your microphone off after you've finished your piece. Councillor Wilcox. Apologies for absence. Lucy, do you have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair. So Councillor Kent is 15 minutes late and also has some substitutes today. So Councillor Eddy is substituting for Councillor Gollop and Councillor Hucker is substituting for Councillor Morris. So Councillor Pearce is sent apologies too. Yes, and Councillor Fodor is substituting for Councillor Barry Parsons. Thank you.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. My understanding the minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Board meeting that was held on the 14th of February are to follow. Obviously we haven't had quite enough time to get those done yet. Agenda item number 5 is chair's business, and I wanted to take this opportunity to say the following. The purpose of today's meeting is to scrutinise the Bristol Waste business plan that is in front of us today. However, it has been brought to my attention that there are reports in the media regarding allegations of fraud and other inappropriate activity related to Bristol Waste operations. I have been informed by the Chief Executive that some of the allegations are still being investigated and some have been passed to the police and are now the subject of an investigation which is being supported by Bristol City Council and the Bristol Waste. I'm sure that members will understand that until investigations are complete, it would be inappropriate for us to discuss this matter further, but OSM members will also expect to be kept informed of the situation, given the importance of Bristol Waste operations to this organisation and the residents we were elected to represent. I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to make some comments as well.
Thanks, Chair. Just to follow on, obviously Bristol Waste will provide to the Audit Committee a comprehensive assurance statement in July, and OSM members are very welcome to either put that piece on their work plan or attend Audit Committee, and again to provide you with the reminder and some reassurance that in previous years the Bristol Holdings, which as you know looks after the shareholder interest in companies, has provided a brief on behalf of all the companies, an annual review of the Audit and Risk Committees. So there was a report that went to Audit Committee July 2022, and that does contain a reference to the alleged fraud that is the subject of an ongoing investigation. So I just wanted to be clear, there is a forum and there is a route via which matters such as that are raised, both in exempt sessions where appropriate through the shareholder and through the formal route into audit committee.
Thank you. We now move on to agenda item number 6, which is public forum. We have 6 questions from Councillor Jeff Gollop, and I believe Councillor Eddy, you are going to ask those questions on his behalf.
Discretion, Chairman, to allow me to ask supplementary on behalf of Councillor Gollop. I'm not sure whether it surprises Jeff more or me that I'm speaking on his behalf. My first question is in respect of answer 2. Why was an exempt briefing for key relevant members not arranged about the managing director change?
Elaine, do you want to respond?
Okay, thank you for the question. We did brief the shareholder, as we would do. It's very much an internal BWC matter. We briefed the shareholder side of the business. We haven't usually briefed OSM, so I think the answer to the question is we did everything right in line with our governance to brief BCC via the shareholder route.
Thank you, Elaine.
Councillor Eddy,
Sorry. My second question is to answer for you. What is the expected timetable before a permanent MD is appointed or in place?
We started recruitment in mid-December, and we have done a search and also advertised via an agency, and we've started to see a couple of candidates already. We will follow through that process, and we anticipate there'll be somebody in place in the summer. In between times, one of the non-exec directors has stepped into the managing director's role. He has extensive waste and FM experience and is really doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Elaine. Does the Chairman, question to answer 5, does the Chairman agree with me that to lose one MD is regrettable, but to lose 4 is more than accident prone?
I think my response to that would be that we are living in very difficult times, particularly for waste collection. We are living in also very difficult economics time. All of the reasons for why the managing directors have changed have all been reported and have also been reported to both the Chair of Audit and myself as Chair of OSM. I think it's always unfortunate to lose managing directors, but I'm not sure it's really a joking matter either.
Question to answer 6. Does this rate of MD attrition confirm that the management regime at BWC is not all it should be?
I don't believe it shows that at all. Actually, what I think it does show, we've actually only had 2 permanent MDs at Bristol Waste over 5 years. We have had a couple of interim FDs, and Jason Eldridge, who was an interim for a while, actually did resign on health grounds. So, you know, that was very unfortunate and a loss to the business. What I do think it demonstrates is that we have a strong and new executive team who are stepping up. We've had a really excellent year in Bristol Waste. If we look at some of the achievements over the last year, despite being, you know, there's been a number of senior management changes, we've delivered improvements in street cleansing, quality of life survey scores have gone up, new facilities such as the HRRC. So I think, if anything, Bristol Waste in the last year has demonstrated being a resilient and strong business that has delivered for the citizens of Bristol.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. We'll now move on to public forum statements. And David.
Yeah, if I can. Is it on? Is it?
Hold on a moment,
on?
David. Lucy's on her way.
It's on. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So, the reason I've come towards them today again is to remind members and officers that on the 1st of April we have some of the biggest bus cuts in the city region, any city region in England. And I really want to make this plea. We have some bus service improvement plan money, which is not spent in the WECA budget, which we could use to put services back into South Bristol and into the East Bristol and the 47 area. The 47 is the Yates of Bristol service through St Paul's at Werburgh's. We've also got routes across South Bristol with no buses at all, and children will need to go to school on the 1st of April, so 3rd of April, and we'll have no buses. So all I'm asking really is that we talk again to WECA, and I've now spoken to the big Lemon bus company, I've spoken to other bus companies overnight, as some people asked me to do yesterday, and I wonder if we can make contact and have a conversation to see what we can commercialise in that particular area. I'm trying to basically make sure we don't have communities in Bristol without bus services. DRT, as reported totally inaccurately in tonight's post, along with a number of service numbers that don't exist, WECA put something out, I don't blame Adam or the Post, DRT will not run in Bristol, apart from Brislington, Keynsham, let's make it clear, Avonmouth and Severn Beach, and a bit in Totterdown. We're completely reliant on the Stagecoach First Group network. So it's very urgent that we do something here, and WECA actually responds to Bristol City Council as an authority. So the other thing is, I think, just to say, on the Cabinet Committee next week, there is actually reports on the City Regional Transport plan and the money, £570 million of taxpayers' money we have for the corridors. I'm not so sure we're going to have buses on some of these corridors where we're going. So just need to make sure that gap's in. And finally, I welcome the Portway station, and we need to get on with Hembury. That's next week as well. But also, just to bring and draw to attention, to drop mass transit would be an absolute tragedy in this city after what we've been through, and Richard Eddy in particular has been through in the past to try and make it happen. So dropping mass transit, I just urge to work with Bath. The Mayor wants to make it happen. I'm not sure about undergrounds, but certainly mass transit needs to happen, and we mustn't be letting it be killed off any board meeting on the 17th, where I'd rather be at Cheltenham Gold Cup than at a board meeting of WECA. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We also have another statement which was by Councillor Gollop. Councillor Gollop did read that statement out on Monday's meeting, so yeah, we're okay to proceed. Everybody is well.
Oh, sorry, Chair, one point I did miss to make. On Bristol Waste, can we please make sure we do more on graffiti, on bus stops, shelters, and on the built infrastructure in the city? That's very important. Sorry, I was asked to raise that. I forgot.
Everybody has a wish list. Okay, we now move into looking at the Bristol Waste business plan. What I'm going to do is explain how this is going to work. First of all, we are going to have a non-exempt session to discuss matters that we can discuss in the public domain. I would remind members that we have had, or most of us have had, exempt briefings already, so just to be careful you don't stray into the exempt information when you're asking your questions. And I have Nancy alongside me who will stab me in the side if you do go beyond the boundaries. And the process that I would follow is when we listen to the presentations, I will then ask for the councillors first to ask questions, and then when we've exhausted the questions, we may go to a more general discussion, but do remember that later on, after the exempt session, we will also want to have a further discussion because we have to make a referral to Cabinet. Once we have exhausted the public session, we'll then move into exempt session, and I will announce when we get to that point. We will not be holding the exempt session in this room. We'll be moving to a different room. Okay, with that in mind, who's taking the lead on this? Is it you again, Elaine?
So I'm going to, because we went through it on Monday, for most people, I'm going to go through it at a pace and just touch on key points and not go through all the detail. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, so I think we started off this presentation just to highlight some of the successes that Bristol Waste has had by working closely with Pete Anderson and the BCC team in the last year. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think the outputs of that hard work from the frontline teams has been improvements in the results that we've seen within the city. From the quality of life scores, we've seen improvements, which is really important. And also you've got new facilities such as the HRRC. We've done a lot of other things in the year, such as students on the move, to tackle the very difficult move-out period, which had been an issue for a number of years. Bristol still remains as the best core city around recycling rates, and that's really important. And we've seen a reduction in household waste of 13% in the year. So again, these are all positive things. Our flats recycling programme has continued. We implemented the village approach to street cleaning, and we've seen some really positive feedback, and indeed we've had some from people in this room. And also, another key measure is that we've reduced our number of complaints that we've had in over the year by 20%. So I think that you can see there's a lot of good work going on in Bristol Waste with the client team at the council to really make sure that we do deliver a good service for the city. We also have an FM business. Lots gone on in there, and that's really been about efficiencies and improving how we do business, things like appropriate accreditation so that we can. We've also seen improvements in how the staff feel after they've transferred in from BCC. So, you know, I could go on quite a lot more, but some of the key highlights from here. And importantly, we've done a lot of work around governance. I've been involved with the committee for just over a year. Made quite a few changes. We on earlier, the changes in the senior management. And that's been really important to help us start the cultural change that will take place to modernise the business. Committees, committee members bring these, Assurance Committee and RepCo. We've done work with our trade union, an agreement, and we've done a lot of work around our people function. Bristol Waste is a people business. 85% of our costs are around people, and we need to do better at how we manage people. We're very much on a journey of modernising our working practices and ensuring that we continue to be a good waste company. So moving on, we're all aware of the economic challenges. I'm not going to bang on about that because, you know, every company in the country faces the same issues. But it has impacted what we've been able to do with the business plan. So we've worked closely with Pete and his team to look at what we put forward to you today and what's included within that. There's been a lot of questions about why it's a one-year business plan. And I think it's really quite simple, in as much as we did agree with the council requirements of the business plan, and we submitted one on the 23rd of December. There were subsequently some changes to the requirements, so we did have to. Have I talked too much? So I'll now talk you through some of the changes, some of the elements of the business plan. So if we look at municipal waste, so that's the BCC contract, you're all aware of some of the changes that are going to happen with charging from the 1st of April. Those are in the plan. We're also doing some investments. It's really important not to stand still as a business. So we are investing in new facilities in Avonmouth. And for example, we took delivery of a new shredder in January, and that's really important because it helps us save money when we're processing waste. We're doing some trials next year, in fact some of them are already underway, around recycling bins, non-standard residential locations, and we'll work with Pete and his team at how we might roll those out. And we'll be building on things like students on the move. In our workplace services division, we're going to work closely with Pete and his team to make sure we have an effective contractual arrangement. And we're going to grow our commercial revenue in that area. We've done really well so far, and we're going to grow that further. We're going to have to make savings. If you compare our services to perhaps industry benchmarks, we've got a way to go on being efficient. We've made some changes. We are much more efficient, but we've got some more work to do. And we're also talking to the council about possibly taking on a part of the Waking Watch service, which would be an important thing to do. And our third division is commercial waste, and this isn't just about bin collections from shops and businesses. This is about how we mine the waste that we receive and we earn money from selling it. So we are targeting a substantial new business in this area of about 450,000. Okay, moving on to other changes. Obviously, we've got the fees and charges. We are going to make changes to the operations of our household recycling centres. They'll be going from 7 days a week to 5. Those days will be targeted at when the locations are busy, which is at the weekend. And, on average at the moment, there's only 35% usage. And I've got some stats and data if anybody wants more information about current usage. But, this will be fine for the city. We are having to remodel our street cleansing service. We are going to reduce costs by 700,000, and that means about a 13% reduction in our street cleansing resources. Again, we're working with Pete and his team to make sure that that's targeted across the city and we minimise the impact. Be a couple of reductions around graffiti and fly tipping resources, and of course we need to make changes in the head office and back office functions, and we're making efficiencies there. Like any business, we have to look very closely in these tough economic times to make sure that we're agile and lean and that we're using technology. We also need to make sure that we're making best use of things like agency resource to cover gaps in resourcing, that we manage sickness well. So I'm not going to go through all the detail, but we've made lots of changes to what we're going to do and how we're going to run the business. We have, in the last few years, delivered £12 million worth of savings to the council, of which £3 million was this year, and we will continue to deliver further savings. So we believe we're offering significant value for money to the citizens of Bristol. So that's a very quick pass through of what we're doing, and Chris will now talk to you about the money side of it.
Thanks, Elaine. I'm Chris Holm, the Director of Finance for the company. I wonder if we can start by just moving on to slide 15 on this presentation, because I really just want to dispel the issues that you might have been hearing in the press that this company is in some significant financial problems. And I think if you can see that our current financial position, we've got currently estimated to have cash reserves at the end of this financial year of £5.5 million. With an operating profit next year of £433,000, and even taking into account the capital investment that we intend to put into Avonmouth and any replacement capital, we're still anticipating a closing year of 5.7 million for next year. So this is a resilient company, but like any other company, it will face challenges moving forward. But it is currently resilient, and I don't want people to sort of be given the wrong impression that this is a company that's got significant financial problems. Going back to the slide 12, so overall as a company, next year we're anticipating to make a surplus of £433,000 company-wide, and that's on the back primarily of the success or continuing the trajectory of success of our commercial business. Whereas what we can't say is that with regards to our municipal waste contract, that we will make a profit within that, and that's a simple scenario at the moment. Our contract uplift is 5% for the year. We have inflationary pressures of over 10%. So it's always going to be very difficult to square that circle. That doesn't mean that the overall the company is in any trouble next year. We can survive through that, but it's important that if we're going to continue to be a strong, resilient company, that decisions will need to be taken early to be able, from 24-25 onwards, to maintain the successful position and the financial position of the company. That's our responsibility of directors, to ensure this remains a resilient company. Like I say, our commercial waste proposition is strong. We're anticipating delivery of something in the region of 29 to 30% growth on our commercial turnover, and the focus of that will be on commercial processing of waste. That's where the significant margins can be made in this business, and that's why we're investing significantly, as well as supporting the resilience of the business, but supporting improvements within Avonmouth that will improve processing facilities, but also have environmental benefits for the city. We will review our commercial collections service, because that's the bit that's visible to most of you. But it is a very low margin and very, very competitive market in which we're dealing with in that commercial waste activity. With regards to workplace services, again, we're anticipating a small profit. Our core contract will not make a profit next year, or we're not forecasting it to make a profit. It will make a small loss. Again, and that's really the same principle, is that the inflation uplift is significantly less than the cost of employing our staff, which is primarily a staff-based service. And indeed, the inflationary uplift doesn't cover for the uplift required to maintain our people on living wage. But we will continue that with that commitment. So the business plan does assume a stretch target of £600,000 on top of that for third-party income. It would be very difficult for us to achieve that, I have to be honest with you, particularly as a number of the contracts that we took over from the council were temporary contracts, so the income from that has already been lost. But we've got a strong commercial aspect with regards to our FM business. We're anticipating growth in the region of between 150 and 170%. We've got a number of significant contracts in the pipeline, and on top of that, we've got a proposal with the council to be involved in the Waking Watch proposition. So like I say, overall, our position is relatively strong. We face significant challenges, like any other business, but given the right decisions and right planning, we will maintain a resilient business moving forward. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. I'll give my colleagues a few seconds to think of their questions. One question I just wanted to ask myself is the municipal waste contract. Am I right in thinking that's by far the largest part of your business? And how long has that contract got to? No, how long has it been going for, and how long is left on the contract?
Yes, it is. Obviously, that was the main reason why Bristol Waste came into being in the first place. It's currently a £42 million contract. So overall, our business is in the region of 60 million. So you can see that it is by far the major element of our business. It was a 10-year contract from 2016, so it ends in 2026.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I've got a few. I'll start with Councillor Eddy.
Chris, firstly, thank you and your colleagues who gave me a briefing at 1 o'clock today. I found that very helpful, and it certainly helped to shape some of my views and perhaps address some of the questions, of course. I raised an issue which I raised with you earlier, which was, to me, the strange thing that actually here we had a businessman without an accompanying statutory accounts and management accounts. Now, you did, to be fair, say you were happy to make those available to the committee. My concern is that even then, frankly, even colleagues like my Councillor Hucker, who's a trained accountant, would have difficulty taking that in within a short period, possibly days, and certainly for Cabinet to endorse this on Tuesday seems very, well, hasty, arguably irregular. My understanding is, and you accepted, you said the accounts went in the Compton's house late this time, but I believe they received it today. My understanding is that it will be available for inspection within 10 days. So my question is, why do we have this very hasty decision? Why can't we actually decide it even a matter of weeks later?
So I wouldn't want to conflate the issue around the 21-22 statutory accounts with the requirements for us to have a business plan that we can operate to from the 1st of April, because first of all, we've actually shared with you, or we've sent out now the accounts for 21-22. As far as I'm concerned, yes, it'll be a couple of days before they appear on the Company's House website, I suspect. They have confirmed that they've received them, they're ready for filing. So, to all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, they're in the public domain. They will show the company as an operating profit for 21-22 of £450,000, and that the company position is relatively strong. So I've got no concerns over that at all for the prior financial year. But we do need to be able to manage a business in the context of the financial parameters within which we're operating. And if you don't agree this business plan, it causes us a significant problem, because we do have to make significant efficiencies. And we've got fiduciary duties as board members to make sure that we deliver within the financial assumptions that we've made. So I think it would be very difficult to put us in a position not to accept this business plan.
I'm not doubting your abilities as finance manager, of course, or your possibly, in principle, the robustness or the workability of the business plan. But I'm just saying, it's not for us to make a decision. We can only refer our views to Cabinet on Tuesday. But it does seem for Cabinet to endorse it before any figures are in the public domain. It does seem as if we're putting the cart before the horse, doesn't it?
Well, like I said, I do not think that the 23-24 business plan is impacted in any way by the 21-22 accounts. They'll be more impacted by the 22-23 accounts, which, won't be published until July of 2023. So, to that degree, I'm not sure why we would delay in any way any decision making on agreeing the business plan. It causes more of an issue for the company if you weren't to approve it at this stage, because we need to be able to put in action the plans that are in this plan.
Can I just add a bit, please? Because I think we're very open and transparent with our financial performance. We share data with the shareholder group, of which there are, which Councillor Dyer is part of. So we do, we share information with Bristol Holding, we share monthly data with Pete and his team. So we absolutely are transparent in how we are performing, and the data we share with BC as our shareholder, BCC as a shareholder, and also as our client. So I don't think there's anything to hide here. We have built this business plan on our current performance and the services that we are required to deliver next year. I don't know if that helps at all.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Stephen, do you want to say?
Well, I suppose, Councillor, the other safeguard is you have directors of a company with fiduciary duties who are prepared to sign this off. And clearly, it's a Cabinet decision, not an OSM decision. We obviously understand that. But I think there will always be a difference between the cycle of accounts being closed out and business plans being created. We have two levels of safeguard here. We have a board of directors and we have a holding company with independent non-execs. So I think certainly the Cabinet members would feel reassured at this point that there is a robust going concern here. The reasons for it being a one-year business plan are, I know stuff that we'll come on to. It's a very challenging environment, and we want to make sure we use the next few months working with Bristol Waste to ensure that we can build that sustainable long-term plan. But as far as this year is concerned, we have boards of directors with fiduciary duties prepared to sign up to it.
Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about some of the changes you're proposing to introduce. So obviously we've got the proposal to charge for replacement bins and recycling bins. How much will that cost to get a replacement recycling bin if you're a member of the public and yours is lost or stolen or damaged by staff at Bristol Waste?
So I think that's a matter to be put to the council, because the council is charging for the bins. We pay and deliver the bins, and we will get some income as per your budget report from the council for providing that service. But it's the council that is charging for the bins, and I think it is £40, is it?
Excuse me, I'll have to come back and give you the exact figure. I can't give it you right now.
It is, yeah. There is a published schedule, I believe. That's.
I have information after this meeting.
Thanks. I'm a bit sort of surprised we don't know that figure, because that's been implemented in about 29 days.
Yes.
That must be well known. I mean, that would be a figure burned into my mind. If I was charging somebody because their bin had just been smashed up by the recycling crew because they're working at speed, it's not their fault, and they're going to have to pay now to have that replaced, we don't know what that figure is.
So can I just add, if BWC caused the damage to the bin, that is obviously not going to be charged to the resident. That is one thing we have.
How will the resident prove that? Will you require them to have video footage, a signed confession of the member of staff that did it? I mean, you laugh, and okay, I put an excessive point. I'm aware of what the system is like.
Okay.
No resident will actually find that you will suddenly say, oh yes, that was a member of our waste company. And what will stop residents from saying, oh, it was damaged by a member of your waste company, if in fact it's been, say, stolen by their neighbour? I mean, I think this is going to cause considerable problems. I accept this is not just your idea, it's one with the council. I don't think this has been thought through, that we're going to charge people for replacement recycling bins, which I say often, they're not lost at the residents' fault.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's just check per bin.
Pete, lean back a little bit.
So is that a large black wheelie bin? Yeah, and what about the recycling boxes?
So there'll be no charge for replacing recycling boxes.
Right, so that's off the table, is it?
No, the intention would be that there is a delivery charge,
Ah.
which is £2.50.
Right, so we're now not talking about charging for recycling boxes, but a £2.50 delivery charge. Is that even worth collecting?
It is for the council and the company, because it's a significant, although it's a small sum to the individual, it's a significant cost to the company, and it is a significant source of income for which we will get a share.
And okay, I mean that's some good news, but just to push this a little bit further, nobody currently can get replacement recycling bins. They've all been told to wait. Will those people in the queue be charged the delivery charge?
Anybody who ordered before a valid order before the 31st of March, obviously it will continue in the existing system.
Right, they will get theirs provided in the system. Okay, thank you. And one just final question, I really probably won't have this today, but can we see the impact of the changes in the cleansing? Can we get a street map or something like that? Because obviously that's a big interest to us and we have no idea what that impact is.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, yes. What we're proposing to do, we're just finalising some details with Pete and the team. We'd like to run some sessions for councillors. We will provide you with details for your specific ward and make sure that you've got the information that you need. And when we rolled out the village, we did actually have some sessions where councillors came in and met supervisors and various other things. We'll do that again for those that want to do it, but those that don't, we will make sure we provide you with individual information specific to your ward for you.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear there's been a rethink on recharger and recycling bins anyway. That's good news. So
No, absolutely. We want to encourage recycling as you do.
That's
so.
good. Right, thank you.
Councillor Fodor.
Yes, thanks very much. I'm torn between questions about the service the company is delivering to us, because it was set up to deliver primarily the municipal waste service, household recycling services and so on, but also questions about the company itself, because some of these issues in this business plan are because of your interaction with the council and the fact you proposed a business plan and it was in December, as you said, and it was withdrawn, and we've ended up with a single year business plan. So my worry is that's not long enough to plan ahead. Investment plans have to be made, services have to be prepared for, and the public have to be ready for the changes. So I'd like to know the lead-in time we're now going to have for any changes that are coming. And on a different note, I mean, I'm concerned that the council has its representative on your board. They haven't been telling us, certainly not telling me, what's going on, and I'm concerned about that as a member of the council, because I would have liked the council to keep us informed about this.
Okay, to talk about the lead-in times and working with Pete and his team, we've already had lots of discussions about future years beyond the next financial year. So we've got options and ideas, and we've agreed that we will really start pinning those down in May, and then obviously it will start to go through the council process. So we very much, from Bristol Waste perspective, share your view, and I think Pete and his team do as well, that if there are going to be any changes, they need a long lead time with citizens to make sure that they can be implemented effectively. So I think certainly Bristol Waste commitment is to work with Pete as early as possible to come back with what we want to do in future years. So, and about making sure that we can deliver a service that matches the budget that's available.
And Stephen, I think you want to add something.
Well, only to the point you're making about members being aware. And clearly, we had quite a long time in the chamber only last week. Members debated very openly and very passionately, in some cases, some of the charges that were being proposed. The reference, for example, to waste frequency was something that was debated by the administration. It's a political choice, and they ended up with the status quo, which is what you saw in the chamber. Why there was no debate? Because you don't debate things that are the same as they were before. So in effect, the administration decides, it puts a bit budget to the full council, whether it changes and you debated it, and I believe, I think that's what the evidence of last week was. But those are political decisions, and we need to get on and do some work, because the result of effectively hyperinflation has been to take about £5 million of purchasing power out of Bristol waste cleansing budget. That creates very big operational and, dare I say, political questions. So that's what we're grappling with, and we'll do so, as Elaine said, openly, with a view that we get to an answer as soon as we can, because these are operational matters that affect hundreds of thousands of people, so we need to get them right.
Martin, do you want to do a couple more questions, and then we can come back to further questions after others have had an opportunity?
Yeah. I think in the final remarks that were made in the presentation, it was that there have to be plans and there have to be choices. I would like members to be involved in that, because it's affecting our streets, our residents, and the neighbourhoods. And we have different things that are needed, whether we've got traditional homes or flats and so on, and sort of business areas, high streets. So I would like the members to be involved in that. I hope the company will be able to discuss that with us. I found it really useful visiting the village team that affects part of my ward, but I haven't yet seen the other village team that affects another part of my ward.
Martin, can I just come in on that? Obviously, at the moment, you're here as a sub, but at some point in the future, subject to full council, you'll be chair of community scrutiny. which includes waste. And maybe that may be something that you want to discuss with Bristol Waste about including that as part of the work programme.
The service and the delivery of the service between the client and contractor and the resident that is for community scrutiny. In terms of the company itself, I mean, 4/5 of the company's business is delivering that, isn't it? By maximum, 1/5, 20% can be the commercial operation. So my other question was to do with the margin in your 62 million roughly turnover, 61 to 62 million turnover. There's only a 400,000 or so margin, and that worries me, because if the commercial business is going to be successful, it will support, I would hope, a healthier margin. Do we have any concerns about that size of it?
So that plus for the year of the company municipal waste contracts and the loss-making council FM contracts. So we're achieving quite good margins at the moment. In the commercial, we're looking at 8% margin in our commercial waste. In our commercial FM, although it does tend to be industry, soft FM, but we are achieving margins of around about 10% at the moment. We're not, they're for us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bradshaw, then I've got Councillor Wilcox, Councillor Massey, and so Councillor Bradshaw.
My turn to fail. Is it working now? Yeah, good. Right, I'll just keep going fast then. The issue for me is reconciling the 1-year plan when you already had a 3-year or a 5-year longer term plan, and this kind of bubble plan that just looks at 1 year, whereas obviously it's going to have an impact beyond that year, particularly if you're looking at capital investment and so on, or major changes to how you do things on the ground. So that for me is still a struggle. You know, my preference, and probably your preference, would have been to have had a revised long-term plan rather than this 1-year pop-out. So that's the big issue for me, and I find that quite difficult to reconcile. On the TECL status, the 80-20 split, you know, you're hugely dependent on growing the 20, and it's a really competitive market and really quite challenging. And I guess some of the skill sets will be different from the traditional waste side of things. So there's a need for investment by the company, both in skills and probably equipment as well, which again leads to my point about having a longer term view. And I suppose my final point is just on the collection side. It's really labour intensive. It requires residents to do their bit, and I think Bristol residents have been doing their bit, but there must be a way perhaps of making it easier for people to participate in recycling activity, whilst also making it easier and more cost effective for the collections to happen. So I'm just testing the degree of openness to look at new approaches, and we've had scrutiny inquiry days in the past where we've looked at other alternatives to just laying out multiple boxes and bags and hoping that people do put the items in the correct box. Two other really quick points on commercial waste. I get a lot of businesses in my ward talking about food waste and wanting a more robust way to collect food waste, because obviously its impact on climate change. And then I read in the report, and we're aware of this as an issue, the risk from batteries and battery fires, and clearly the depots, you know, there must be a significant risk attached to this. So just wanted to understand a bit more about how you're going to address that, or how you're already addressing that risk.
Okay, so Mark, I think, like you, we would like to have a 5-year plan, of course. You know, from a board perspective, there's been much debate about this, so we share that view, and I know that BCC do as well. So that is what we're going to work towards in the next few months, to really make sure that we can deliver that.
Can I just to go beyond that, because we made a commitment in this business plan that although the minimum we want is a 5-year plan, we're actually looking for a much longer term strategy, because we have to plan as a going concern, irrespective, and part of our investment decisions will require that significant longer term thinking. So even when it comes to, we focused a lot around the investments that we'll do to support the processing side of the business, because that really will help the future, both in terms of the environmental aims and objectives of the city, but also for the business. It makes really good business sense in the longer term for the company. But there's more than that. There's thoughts about, what we've got to replace our whole fleet within the next 4 to 5 years. That needs some really fundamental thinking about what kind of waste service the council will want.
Which is your last point, actually, Mark. We need to think together about what is the right solution for the city, because we're going to replace the fleet, which we're going to need to. Is there a better way of doing it? So I think we're in splendid agreement, and certainly we've started those discussions looking at the longer term strategy for the city in regards to waste, of which we hope to be the long-term provider in the future. Right, you talked about skills and expertise around commercial waste. Absolutely, it is a very different skill set or commercial business. We are in the process, although we've made lots of efficiencies in our business plan, we're also making investments. There are jobs out for the moment for head of the commercial waste area and additional staff, so we're not setting targets that are unachievable. We are making sure that we're putting people in to support delivery, so I'd like to reassure you on that. And I think you asked about food waste. I think, as you've probably read in the business plan, about 40% of what's in the black bin today could be recycled in some shape or form, and food waste is part of that. There's lots more we can do around campaigns. To be honest, we have reduced some of that spend simply to live within our means. And I think between us, when we look at future years, this is an area that we really want to do. There are so many opportunities. Right now, we've had to prune back on what we can do in the next financial year.
I think that covers.
Oh, the fires. Okay, so yes, fair point. We have had a number of fires in Albert Road, particularly with our baler, around batteries not being put in the right place. So we had an incident the other day actually, and it demonstrated what really good safety procedures we have as a business, how the teams reacted. I think we had a really successful campaign online about what to do with batteries, and I think we need to build on that, because there's definitely an issue. We have a number of fires each year, and it is a problem for us. And so I think we actually have our head of comms over there. There's more work to do in communicating to citizens about what to do with batteries.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move, because we've only got about 10 minutes left for this session, and we still have to also hear from Chris Smith. So before we do that, I'm just going to finish off with the councillors who had put their hands up just before. We see is Councillor Wilcox, Councillor Massey, Councillor Hooker, and then Councillor Eddy. You will have the last word.
Thank you, Chair. Is this working? I'm interested about the household recovery recycling centres and reducing the opening hours. And we talked about trying to get some stats about before the online charge was. So can you give us some details on that, please?
We can actually put them on screen for you.
We're worried about that. We've got some data for you. So I think that the challenge was at the last meeting that fly tipping probably has increased since we brought in the booking system. The answer to that is definitely not. In 2021, we had an average of 947 reports in each month. The first half of last year, before the booking system went in, it went down to 896, and post the booking system, it went down to 807. So reduction in instance of fly tipping. But we also saw the tonnages at the recycling centres go up. So that points to the fact that there hasn't been an increase in fly tipping. On the bookings, there was a question, I think, last time around if we reduce the hours, would we have the capacity? We have what we do when we book cars in for people to come in, we allow 25 cars per 15 minutes. We could easily increase that to 30 cars per 15 minutes. Since that's been implemented from June last year, we've had only 3 occasions of 15 minutes when that 25 maximum has been hit. So we have plenty of capacity, and even by going down to the busy days are Saturdays and Sundays, so we'll be opening all of the facilities on Saturdays and Sundays. For the other 4 of the 5 days, 2 of the facilities will be open, and then on the quietest day, which will either be a Wednesday or Thursday, there'll be 1 site open. So we believe we've got plenty of capacity. And we've also seen an increase in the tonnages since the booking system's gone live. Oh, I've mentioned that earlier. So I think there's plenty of information there to indicate we've got lots of capacity, and by reducing the booking hours from booking days from the days open from 7 to 5, we shouldn't have a problem. Does that answer the question?
And just sorry to confirm that it's not just the frequency of fly tipping that's reduced, the actual tonnage of fly tipping has reduced. So it's gone down from roughly over 100 tonnes down to around about 97 tonnes at the moment. So it's gone down. The tonnage in terms of what is going through the HRCs, the 12 months before the booking system was introduced, there was 1,628 tonnes coming through the HRCs. There's currently 1,727 tonnes per month coming through, so it has increased.
Thank you. That all sounds positive, but I didn't hear a figure for visits for the household recycling centres before and after the online system was booked in. So how many visits did you have on a daily basis on average before the online system was brought in and afterwards, please?
So that's a very difficult one to measure, because of course it's only through the booking system that you can measure the number of vehicles coming through.
Right.
So what I'm saying is,
you weren't keeping count of them before you...
They weren't being counted as such, but what I'm saying is the tonnages were lower. So
okay.
So we think it points to a success of the booking system, and we've had a lot of very positive feedback about not having to queue and that kind of thing. So, both anecdotally and factually, it supports that there's been a significant level of success since this happened in June last year.
Good. And bank holidays?
Yes.
Will they be open?
Yes.
Excellent. Can we have those figures emailed to us in the same way we've had the accounts emailed to us, please?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That'd be
We
brilliant.
put a few slides together which we'll share and we can circulate.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Massey.
Okay, right. Just rewinding, going back to bins, boxes and lids, etc., which may seem trivial, but actually is of huge importance. On your website, or on the council's website, it says service unavailable. We're currently take orders on the website, on email or on the phone. This is not the first time that's happened. I've been trying to order a black box for weeks now, as it got badly damaged by being thrown around. So how are we supposed to encourage our residents to not fly tip when you've got nothing to put them in? No boxes, no bins, no nothing. And this is not the first time. It's been on, that message has been on there for quite a long time.
One thing.
I think we're aware there is a problem with the alloy system at the moment, and it's linked with the council. It's being worked on. We're trying to get it sorted out as quickly as possible, but we apologise for the inconvenience that it's caused at the moment. I think it's been for the last 2 days where it's been a problem.
about the last 6 weeks, unable to.
Councillor Massey, let me take that one away, and we will come back to this group to confirm what the situation is, when it will be rectified, but we will sort it out as quickly as we can. And if there are specific issues for individuals, let's deal with those and get it sorted. So apologies on behalf of Bristol Waste. We'll get it looked at and we'll come back to you very shortly.
Thank you. Plant tipping is the problem.
Councillor Hooker.
Chair. We're now approaching the end of the 22-23 financial year, so you will be preparing your accounts for that financial year shortly. Have you had conversations with your auditors as to whether or not they would be willing to sign off the 22-23 statutory accounts on a going concern basis, given that you only have a business plan for 1 year?
Yes, we're in dialogue with the auditors at the moment. And like I say, I refer back to the very first slide that I showed you, which shows the financial resilience from a cash base. This is a very solvent business. It's not an issue, we believe, at this stage for a going concern. And as long as we get the issues, the changes required for the future, then it will continue to be a going concern.
In my experience, auditors would normally expect to see a longer term business plan before signing off as a going concern, but I'll take your word for that. I have a couple of other questions as well, if you don't mind. Looking at the projections for 23-24, I can see that direct costs are being constrained, but overheads are increasing by 60%, and I wondered what's actually driving that increase.
So some of it is a categorisation of cost, but more importantly, I've, because of the nature of the savings that we're making, I've had to put in some contingencies in there, including contingencies for redundancies, including contingencies for the impact of any delay on any savings. There are some increased corporate governance costs, which we've had to put in the business as well. Most of these costs are one-off, I would say, in terms of for the year ahead, because we're planning for the changes.
Thank you. Your efficiency savings that are listed in the business plan, you include a change in depreciation with regard to the period of time over which your assets are written off. Is that as a result of actually being able to extend the useful life of those assets, or is that just a bookkeeping change?
Well, it's primarily a bookkeeping change, but we agreed it with our auditors that it's reasonable. We were depreciating our vehicles over 7 years when they actually last 8, so that provides a significant saving. And also we were over depreciating for the timescale on many of our fixed building assets. So many of these buildings these are hard fabric buildings which have got an estimated 40-year life, but we were depreciating over 20 years. It made sense to change the policy and agree that policy with our auditors.
Thank you. Just one more, if you don't mind, Chair. When I looked at your statutory accounts for the 2020-21 financial year the other day, which was the latest available at that time, I could see that your indebtedness to the council was 8.5 million. Is that right? And what's the current figure for your indebtedness to the council? The slide which you drew our attention to earlier shows additional funding in 23-24 of 2,950,000, And I assume that that's going to be drawn from the council. Is that correct?
So we'll be drawing 2.8 million from the council as part of a loan facility agreement. The 8 million that you refer will be the loan facility that we took out in 2019 for the replacement vehicles. So we replaced 150, sorry, not 100, but we replaced over 50 vehicles in 2019. The cost of the replacement was in the region of £12 million. Again, that's what is left is at that time would be 8 million. I can't recall what we currently owe. It's in the region of 6, I think, on those. But on the other side, of course, we normally have within our balance sheet the contra, the amount that the council owes at any one stage to the business, which can vary because sometimes if payments are late, then it will be reflected on our balance sheet as within our debtor position.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Eddy.
My question is actually prompted by Councillor Bradshaw, who reminded me of a question I proposed to ask you in our private briefing, but I forgot. Many business plans I've seen actually litter that responsibility for various actions to a person or a post order or section or so. Yours doesn't, but is signed off collectively by the Bristol Waste Board. Is this the same practice in your previous business plan, or has it changed?
It's the same practices in the previous business plan Bristol Waste has produced. But the bottom line is each of those actions that are in the business plan have an owner. And sitting behind this is a project plan, and we have a project office which monitors delivery. And you'll see at the front of the business plan there's a milestone plan, which is the key deliverables that the company is going to do at a high level, which is monitored by the board. And then there's other deliverables are monitored by the executive team. So everything has an owner. We just chose not to publish the names in a public plan.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Eddy. Chris, you've been waiting patiently all this time. Chris is obviously from Bristol Holding, and he has, I believe it's quite a brief presentation or conversation.
In terms of summary, hasn't it? That's not. A very challenging plan. We believe it's very achievable. Do you want me to repeat that? Anything to do with it? That's just an overview. We're a very diligent, very strong team. Have come up with a very good plan, given the circumstances.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We are now going to move into exempt session. So, agenda item number 8 is exclusion of press in public. Under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public will be excluded from the meeting. For the following items of business on the grounds that they may involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act. However, in this instance, what we are going to do is we are all going to move into a different room, so you don't have to worry about packing up quite so quickly, David. Or Adam. And just so everyone's aware, the exempt session will then take us to the finish of the meeting. We won't be coming back into open session afterwards.